Now,
which it would be totally worth it if the traffic warranted it. But if you look at that, the traffic is not warranting it.
well, if you ask those people, I'm sure they'll say it did warrant it.
It's gotta be for the benefit
It
of
has
the
to be
majority.
for the benefit of the majority.
Now, can we switch
gave
the
it a
day
good
we're
shot.
open longer from Thursday to Wednesday, so that way it could accommodate the reports?
We
I
could
think
do
it
that.
does.
We would also have to switch the selectmen's meeting, which would,
Or,
you
Because
could
that's gonna
assign the
require
check.
us to be here later to be to these meetings, and the reason why we come in later that day is because we have a selectmen's meeting, which stops the overtime. And if we're gonna be changing that and doing that, that's gonna count more overtime as well.
could change some of the schedule.
There's only so many people in the office. I'm not trying to be negative in this.
Right, I understand.
I'm really not, although I am, but I will admit it. My concern is that you're upsetting the whole procedure of the office for a handful of people. And if you're, I mean, if you had enough traffic to warrant this, as you do to have one late night per week, I can see it. And if the board wishes to do that, that's fine. The only thing that you have to remember is that you are going to increase overtime.
We could avoid
We
overtime
don't
by
have-
changing scheduling.
We don't have enough people to step,
I guess that
Schedule.
I know in Whiting there was 2 people in the town office and it was open 3 days a week.
that's all they're open, right?
Yeah, so I don't understand if you have 40 hours a week, why the manner of things ain't done within the 40 hours, that's all, I mean.
There's some things you can't do. There's computer work that you cannot do and run the computers, the customer portion at the same time.
Oh.
You absolutely cannot. You can't do it in a bank, you can't do it in a
Well, so, yeah.
municipality.
Well, that's
And if you were open 3 days a week, if we were open 4 days a week, we could do everything on the day we were closed. But when you're open 5 days a week, something's gotta give.
I mean, some of the transaction, when Betty's doing these reports, she's saying that everything up until this report is accurate.
Right.
Okay, the thing is once somebody does the transaction, then the number she has is no longer
Right.
accurate.
They're
So
not valid.
they can't do any transactions until she proves up these reports.
Matter of fact, when I go to run that report off, the very first thing that flags up there, make sure no one is in this program, because that's the very first thing that says you cannot be in any of those programs, and that's a little red flag that will come up when you go to run those reports.
Well, it's like if we, just a hypothetical, if we did switch to Wednesday being our long day open, which I don't, you know, because Betty used to do the 2-hour reports and other reports to be able for the weekend. Usually Randy is our secretary, so why would Randy have to incur overtime? He would just come in later on Thursday.
Randy's the one that's gotta do the reports to get the checks on the road. He's gotta balance
He'd be here
everything.
Wednesday. for all
But
of
what's that gonna prove? I mean, you're gonna move it from one day to the next
that.
day.
No, but by staggering Betty and Randy's hours that day, Randy doesn't incur overtime. Betty has time uninterrupted to do the reports, and we still get to stay open for the public longer.
You still have to have that time for her to run the reports. I'm missing something you're saying, Justin, I'm sorry.
You're trying to stay open, but
Well, no,
if you're still staying open, that means I gotta stay after we close, or I gotta do it before we open. So that's not accomplishing anything, because you
let
still.
me explain what I'm, hopefully is not coming across correct.
Right.
Now we're out staying open, Thursday we're here early, without any public interruption until 10, correct? You guys come in at 8 on Thursday?
No,
Come in at
no,
10 on-
no.
10
Come in on 10.
Okay. If we switch to Wednesday, the staff could come in at 8, we don't open till the public until 10 o'clock, which gives them 2 more hours, and 2 hours of uninterrupted time to do their reports. Thursday we open at 8 like we should, and the only one person that has to be changed is Randy, so that way he doesn't incur overtime. Instead of him coming in at 8, he can come in at whatever time the end of the selectmen's meetings happen, so he doesn't have
But
to
that
have
doesn't
overtime.
help any of the other reports, we have to do month-end and quarterly report.
Well, how are we
Those
getting
stagger
them done
every,
now?
I'm
She's
coming
coming
in
in
at
at
6 AM.
Every day or just one day?
When those
One
days
day
that
a
need to be done, I'm in here at 6 AM. We are also in here sometimes on the weekends to get these done.
And I was told that the computers were gonna make things fun.
But if we had a day, if you had 2 hours every
That was
single
the
week
sales
of
pitch.
uninterrupted, we couldn't get all those done? But
You
in one
can't say
different week?
it's always gonna be on Wednesday because the first of the month may not be on that
Okay.
Wednesday. It's different every month, except for January and February if there's no leap year.
Justin,
Under
I'd like
very
to think
much,
that there
excuse
was a simple solution to this, but I don't. And
James,
I
my biggest
realize,
complaint from everybody that sees
Yeah.
me is hours.
well, you know, it's not reflected in, is it only
in
that
the
that
traffic.
many people?
It's been 3 months.
It's been 4 months.
4, okay. We've changed our hours from 4 months to a time that we've been historically at for how long? It takes a while for people to realize that I can use that.
I would have thought it would have been a much bigger amount based on the
You
people
register
that
your
took
trailers or boats
when
once a
necessary
year.
and when.
Maybe theirs hasn't come up
coming
yet.
down. Okay, well,
I don't want
be
to,
that as it
I think
may,
it's gonna become a really blown up issue
I'm
down
not
No.
trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to figure out
No.
ways that we can.
I
serve
think it's
the
a happy
community.
medium going to 9 o'clock.
You're only going up 1 hour. You're solving a lot of problems, the bank is open. She's still gonna have to come in early, she's gonna have to come
I
in at
beg to
7.
differ with you. You have not been there when you cannot make cash for a customer.
We can
And the-
change policies
and
to
the
change
night-
the amount of cash we have on hand.
That is not
No.
going to change anything because you don't know when that customer comes in and they come in, every customer you have is $100 bills and then you're left with nothing but hundreds. You cannot make change with that. It happened last week and it's happened before. It happens quite a bit. And it was on a Thursday night. The bank is not open. When I made my deposit, I couldn't even make change to make my deposit that night. I had to send too much money down, and they had too much money down there. I had to wait to get down to get my money the next day, which we're open at 8. They don't open till 8:30, so my drawer was short to start with, and I got nothing but big bills, and I can't make change. We went to the store to try to rob what we could, and one of the customers I
Don't
had to
use
give.
the word wrong.
Well, basically, when you get, the stores are in the same situation. They're trying to have as much as they can on hand so that they can make change for their customers. And if we're down there taking what they need for
How
theirs,
Do we get bombarded with large transactions
All
between the
the
hours
time.
of 8 and 8:30 every morning?
all the
Well,
time.
if that's the case all the time, if
Then we
you
should
check $100,
definitely-
we
No,
ought to
no,
have
it-
money on hand.
What I'm saying is, if they're gonna be coming in here, we can't be ready for the customer.
If we change the
You're
amount we had on
asking
hand, we could.
That's not gonna change. It's only gonna be a target for us to be robbed.
Oh, gosh, you can't use that. We got a police department and stuff, they'll take good care of it. I mean, surely the transactions done in the past in this town office, where they've dealt with large sums of money week in and week out, they never used, I mean, surely somewhere along the line, this must be some new type of.
Well, I'll tell you
We
one thing
opened
that
at 10
changed.
o'clock and the bank was open.
I'll tell you one thing that changed, actually 2 things changed. We changed our hours earlier, but the bank changed their hours later.
Okay.
I worked at that bank down there, Betty worked at that bank down there,
It used to be open
and
at
we
8
had to
o'clock.
be there at 8 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
Well, see, the
That's
banks now,
changed.
the banks now for themselves, but we'll hear from public, right, so that'll be different. So.
Well, they're a private entity and we're a public
There you
entity,
go, yeah.
so.
I
if
guess, I'm
you-
just trying to take some of the
Right.
heat off us because I think it's gonna be a heated issue, I really do.
Well, I would agree with you if we had larger amounts of traffic between 8 and 9. But
It's
we've
very hard to
they've kept
compare
track for
numbers for a very small window.
4 hours.
Really, it's not every day
isn't.
either,
Yeah,
it's a small amount.
and
of
this
it.
isn't hours that they've put down, these are the hours from the computer as the transactions were going in. So
Yeah,
it's
I
not
still-
something that they skewed
I still follow you.
I've never,
to look in there.
I have no doubt that they would not skew a number. I don't know why that came into play, but
I'm just saying, this is computer
to think that
numbers.
if we had employees that would try to skew numbers would really bother me.
Would me
It
too.
should, and it should.
It would me too.
Well,
Okay,
With
so
the
I guess,
information that's presented
Sarah,
and saving overtime, I don't think it matters if we opened up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're still gonna be scrutinized.
No.
And the same people that complain aren't gonna come through the door at 6, 7, or 8 o'clock in the morning. And for the benefit of the tax dollars and overtime, and the information that's been presented, I make a motion that we accept to change the hours to 9 AM when they're now at 8.
I second that motion.
okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I would like to have the figures for next meeting on the amount of overtime we spent for 4 months
Okay,
for changing this.
okay.
And if there's any way possible, I don't know if it is, if there's a way we could look at our transaction records, because we have the names, and find out how often we were short on the proper amount of change. I'd like to know that in general, because if it's happening a lot, if it's something we need to look into.
As long as you open before the bank opens, you're gonna have the problem.
I disagree. I know lots of businesses that manage to work without bank hours.
They probably keep larger
And they keep
amounts of
A
cash.
lot more cash.
And we can do that. We can up the beginning cash.
And I'm not saying we should or shouldn't right now, but if we had the figures of how often we were short, we might be able to look at a number that we could up it a little to cover most of these issues. Something that we should look into.
I'm trying to figure out.
You can up it to anything you want to. You could make it so that every
Yeah, but
clerk
upping it
up
in
there has
excessive amount,
$200, $300, $400, $500.
You're missing the
If
point
you're
there.
looking at a business like
You're missing my
Lion's
point.
Store, they probably have $5,000 or $6,000 on hand every morning.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out, and Betty, you can enlighten me on this, is, like, if somebody comes in to pay taxes, property tax, don't they have the amount written out, whether it's paid quarterly or whatever, so there'd be no exchange there in money back to anybody, right? If anybody's coming in to license a vehicle or a trailer or anything, they write you a check. You do credit cards? You do credit cards, so there wouldn't
But
be no
there's still a
exchange.
lot
But
of people
I
that's
don't
still
understand.
dealing in cash.
But I mean, if,
Well, if they pay in cash, and
Self-employed
the
cash.
difference is be no more than $100 as far as one transaction. Let's say if I gave you $100 over, $80 over, to give you a $100 bill, and it was $80 that you owed me. I mean, how many, you have a lot of transactions that are the cash thing that really makes
It doesn't take
that
much.
much of a difference to, let's say, make a...
When you start with a cash, your cash drawer has $100 in it, and that's it.
How often?
Somebody comes in with $100 bill, and you gotta give them back $80, you got nothing to work with.
True, but
Absolutely
you've been a
nothing to work
banker,
with.
really, we should have a better system than that for the money side of things, because I don't think the cash is gonna go away.
For audit reasons, this is what they really want. They don't want a lot of cash in our cash drawers.
Yeah.
And we also have a policy that once we get over a certain threshold, that money's going right down there. We'll make deposits during the day. When we get cash building up in our drawer, it goes there. We might make 3, 4, 5 trips a day when we have extra cash to get that cash out of our drawer. We don't want the extra cash in our drawer. It's a target for us.
Man, I'm glad there's that much cash floating around.
There's a lot of cash floating around.
That's good. I like that.
can we get the figures of how many times we have to send someone to the bank to make deposits a day? Or on
Depends
average?
on the time of year, and it depends on the day of the week. When you get into toward the end of the year, when people are paying taxes, and when you get to mid-year, then we get a lot of cash. During the
I
week,
understand it.
you
I'm
probably
just-
don't have
I'd
much.
like to understand the average, because I'm sure we've been doing this business now for, since I've been alive, we must have an idea of the trend and
Mhm.
roughly how often we
Yeah.
send somebody.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you, that there's
Oh, I understand
basically
it's gonna differ,
two
but I'd like to see
two-
some numbers on it.
two ends of the year. The half-year tax and the end of the year are when we get the big deposits. And we do get large cash deposits. A lot of people deal in cash.
I like the sound of that thought. I mean, it's kind of like being negative, the cash thing, you have the sound. I don't, cash is a good thing. I really like cash.
Cash is a very good thing, but you don't want to have large amounts of it on hand.
Madam Chairman, I suggest we move the question.
All in favor of moving the question? Okay. Do we remember what the motion was?